I see happening here in Seattle, where we've re-elected the first socialists elected to a city council seat in Seattle in 100 years.
Wow.
And
really?
I think, yeah, it's a glimmer of hope of what's possible when communities get organized and they fight. And I think it's also, it shows what's possible when you get organized and you fight with socialists who have a strategy to take on the right wing and to challenge their divisive policies. So without further ado, I'm sure everybody's really excited. I want to introduce our newly re-elected City Council member, Kshama Sawant, to give the socialist response.
Sisters and brothers, is everyone pumped up?
Yeah.
Well, Obama's final State of the Union was filled with optimism for the future of the United States. And I share this confidence, but for very different reasons. My confidence is based not on big corporations or the prosperity of Wall Street and its billionaires. It is based instead on the immense potential power of American workers, of the 99%, some of which is right here in this room, to fight for a better society against the billionaire class whose limitless greed threatens our society and our planet. I have hope because of the Black Lives Matter movement, which has broken the silence on systematic racism, mass incarceration, and police brutality. I draw inspiration from the growing movement in Chicago demanding Mayor 1% Rahm Emanuel resign. This mayor, who was previously Obama's chief of staff, has fought viciously over his tenure to do the greatest possible damage to unions and to public education. His cover-up of the brutal police murder of Laquan McDonald further reveals the corruption of the Democratic Party machine that runs Chicago and many other urban centers. What is new is the mood of resistance and revolt, especially among young people. I am optimistic because of the courage shown by fast food and low-wage workers striking for $15 minimum wage who are winning in dozens of cities and states, by the tens of thousands of dreamers, young undocumented immigrants who are standing up insisting that this is their country and are demanding full democratic rights, by the incredible groundswell of support for Bernie Sanders and his call for a political revolution against the billionaire class with an unprecedented 1 million people donating and hundreds of thousands attending rallies in almost every corner of this nation, and by the courageous activists who stood up against the Keystone XL pipeline and won, even when establishment politicians poured scorn on their efforts and sent in the police to arrest them. Under Obama's 2 terms in office, the Wall Street barons who crashed the global economy, who needed to be bailed out and rescued with our money, these same gangsters have not only walked away free, but have taken away the lion's share of the recovery. America's 20 wealthiest people, a group that could fit comfortably in one luxury jet, not that we have been on a luxury jet, now own more wealth than the bottom half of the American population combined, a total of 152 million people. These same billionaires are the ones who bankroll the political establishment of both major parties. Congress isn't regulating Wall Street. It is Wall Street that controls Congress. And what do we have left for us? $1 trillion in student debt, poverty, wages, and insecurity, even for those of us who still have decent paying jobs. And despite so many hopes, rather than overcoming the gulf between the classes, Obama's legacy is not less but more income inequality. Inequality has actually grown 4 times faster under Obama than under Bush. I'm sure you heard Obama joke tonight about job security and longevity for US Congress members. But for millions of American workers, this is not a joke that most of us have no hope of job security or retirement. As the crisis in the Middle East grows, many Americans now fear terrorism from ISIS. Our hearts go out to the victims and families in the horrific attacks in Beirut, Paris, and San Bernardino. My sisters and brothers, there needs to be a strategy to stop terrorism, but there will not be a solution without ending the unjust wars, the drone strikes, the ongoing support for oppressive regimes in the Middle East, which allow Western corporations to exploit the region and keep masses of people impoverished. Yes. Neither the Bush wars, nor the legacy of Guantanamo Bay, nor the US backing of right-wing fundamentalist regimes like the dictatorship in Saudi Arabia were ended by the Obama administration. Bloody US imperialist policies in the Middle East have led to the deaths of millions of American, Iraqi, and Afghan working people, and now to the greatest refugee crisis in world history. Instead of relying on reactionary regimes, I advocate a socialist strategy of supporting the self-organization of people in trade unions, in mass movements, in the best, most inspiring traditions of the Arab Spring. Our real allies are the workers and the poor of the Middle East, whether Muslim, Jewish, Christian, or atheist, who oppose the regime of Saudi Arabia, who oppose dictators like Jordan's king, and who suffer under ISIS as well as under Assad's regime. We need to mobilize against wars and terror and to put international solidarity of the 99% front and center. This past year, the bigotry and arrogance of billionaire Donald Trump has dominated coverage of US presidential race. We must stand up to and organize in the streets against the Republican right wing's racist, sexist, anti-immigrant, and anti-worker agenda. But the question is, what fuels support for this agenda? It arises out of the falling living standards of working people and the growing hatred of the political establishment. And as worker living standards fall, there will inevitably be anger that requires a political outlet. It cannot be stopped on the basis of supporting establishment pro-big business politicians. We need to offer instead a clear alternative to defend the rights of working people, the interests of the 99%. That means we must also oppose Hillary Clinton, warmonger and Walmart candidate for the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Yeah.
My sisters and brothers, it would be great to have a female president to fight for women's rights. Unfortunately, Hillary Clinton will not deliver on that. And if the 99% have to choose between 2 Wall Street candidates for president, it is far more likely that workers and youth will stay home and the Republicans may win. Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, is giving voice to the enormous desire for progressive change. Many of Bernie's supporters are excited about a self-described democratic socialist candidate. But what is socialism? Millions are asking. A socialist society would put people before profit, the environment before big oil, in which the resources of the major corporations are taken into democratic public ownership, rationally planned for the needs of society as a whole. I am not a Democrat, but I would welcome it if Bernie Sanders were to win the Democratic nomination, because this would be a major blow to the political establishment and to the corporate politics of America. obstacles in the undemocratic Democratic primaries, which are tilted towards Hillary Clinton. Defeating Clinton and the Wall Street interests behind her will require Sanders supporters to build a massive new grassroots political force capable of waging a fierce battle against the Democratic Party machine at every level of American politics. Yeah. Effectively, my sisters and brothers, this means building a new left political party out of Bernie's campaign that can continue to organize and fight beyond the elections. And let's be clear, even if big business and the Democratic establishment were unable to block Sanders in their primary, there is no way they would accept having someone representing the interests of working people at the head of one of their two parties. If they failed to force Sanders to make major political concessions, they would go all out to sabotage him in the general election campaign, preferring to see a Republican win. Sisters and brothers, if you are electrified by Bernie's message, you should not support Hillary if Bernie loses the primary. Endorsing Hillary would be a surefire way to demoralize, demobilize, and wreck the movement building up behind Bernie. I would instead urge Sanders to continue running as an independent all the way through November. For example, on the Green Party ticket with Jill Stein. But our immediate task, of course, is to relentlessly push forward the grassroots energy around Bernie. Win or lose, the most important legacy of this historic campaign will be whether it builds an ongoing political movement against the billionaire class. It is time for something new. The 99% needs its own political party that unambiguously fights for our interests. We need to build a tool to fight back against the billionaire class, to save humanity and our planet from the failed system of capitalism, and to fight boldly for a socialist world. Join me. Join my organization, Socialist Alternative. Get in touch with us at socialistalternative.org. Please make a donation, sign up, and get involved. Let's turn 2016 into a year of powerful movements of workers, youth, people of color, of LGBTQ people, to fight for a $15 minimum wage nationwide, for a minimum of 12 weeks of paid family leave for all workers, for taxing the rich, and for democratically elected civilian oversight boards with full powers over police departments. Debs, the great American socialist, once said, "The issue is socialism versus capitalism." I am for socialism because I am for humanity. We have been cursed with the reign of gold long enough. The time has come to regenerate society. Solidarity.